And that's why Kami wanted to come in as Alex, because he knew stuff like this would happen. Hi guys, welcome back to the Shannon Show. Hello, if you're new, so today's video is going to be a review slash rant slash kiki slash psychological analysis of Love is Blind season 4 episodes 1 to 5. I hope everybody is doing as well as can be, and I really do hope everybody is being as proactive as possible in supporting the Black Lives Matter movement. And if you're still on the lookout for some resources, I've linked some in the description. Feel free to comment down below your thoughts on my commentary. I'm always up for a chat, I'm always up for a debate, and if you like this video, give it a thumbs up, and if you didn't, give it a dislike, no hard feelings. And if you really like this video, consider subscribing and helping your girl out. So Love is Blind is back. It's been such a quick turnaround. I'm pretty sure the last season wasn't out that long ago, so quick turnaround. And you know what, I'm here for it. I'm a fan of trash TV, I'm a fan of drama. If Netflix wants to produce more, I'm here for it. Last season was an absolute shambles. The background checks, where were they? Literally every single couple from last season was involved in some sort of scandal. We did have 2 successful marriages last season. You know, they're still married, they're still holding firm. I don't think either of them will be long term, but I guess we'll have to see. But moving on to this season, like I hope for every season, my heart is open for genuine romance, genuine connections. But I will always be here to see drama. If we can get some cute romance, I'm here for it. I support that. But I'm not gonna lie, I am here for drama, and it provides for us every season. Now, in terms of the quality of candidates this year and the quality of candidates last year, I kind of feel like the quality of candidates of this year are better for relationships in general than last season's cast was. But I kind of feel like last season was a lot more marriage minded. A lot of these people on this season, I feel like, say that they want marriage, but I don't think a lot of the individuals are ready. Maybe just want to get married because they feel like they have to do that at the stage of life that they're in right now. They like the idea of marriage, so they're happy just to get married to the first connection that they meet. I feel like that's the general vibe of this season. In the first 5 episodes, we did see a bit of drama, which of course I'll discuss. But overall so far for me, I can't see any of these couples being a successful marriage yet. So let's just get into the review. So I'm going to start off talking about my first impressions of the main key players. So my first impression of Chelsea, I thought that she was instantly likable. She's a material girl. You know, she said she had bought 22 pairs of shoes. I was like, period. She knows what she wants. So based off of first impressions, I was rooting for her. Then we have Tiffany. She's coming into her late 30s. So I kind of got the impression that, you know, she really likes the idea of marriage. She wants a husband. And this show was kind of her last ditch attempt. And as somebody who's recently got back into online dating, I can definitely understand why she was just like, fuck it, I might as well go on Love is Blind. I do definitely feel like it would be a better experience than trying to find your husband online or hoping that you meet them in a bar or a restaurant somewhere. So that's kind of the, you know, the vibe that I was getting from Tiffany. She seems to be like a big feminist. She's big on, you know, whatever a man can do, I can do. It kind of gives off the vibe that if someone was to say, well, that's a man's job, she would be like, bet, well, I'm going to do it, and I'm going to do it better than what a man would do. So she gave off that energy. So I was kind of thinking, okay, let's see how that energy fares in the pod. Then we have Jacqueline / Jackie, and based on first impressions, I really liked her. I liked her personality. She wasn't about the bullshit, you know. So based on first impressions, I was rooting for her. Then we have Irina. She kind of introduced herself like as, you know, the sob story. She used to be very insecure about her acne and her back knee. But now, you know, as that's cleared up, she's got more confident with her looks, but she still doesn't want somebody who's kind of like skin deep. And right off the bat, because I heard that sob story, I was kind of giving like, is this going to be like a Danielle type of vibe? I was thinking that's where it was going to go with her. Then we have Bliss. Right off the bat, she seemed like a nice girl. Then we have Micah. Right off the bat, she seemed like a funny girl, but she did say that she feels like people just tend to go for her because of her looks. And I feel like every season there's this girl and she's always in drama. So right off the bat, I was thinking, yeah, she's definitely going to be at the root of some drama. Then there was Amber. She's already been married twice. So instantly I was thinking like, damn, you really must love marriage to be going for your 3rd marriage in your 30s. How short were these marriages? And then you're coming on TV on top of that to find this 3rd husband. Like, you know what? Good for you, girl. You know, if that's what you really want, I'm here for you pursuing that. Kind of iconic. I was thinking, like, obviously she's going to be an interesting character. And then out of the boys, first up we have Kwame. And for me, right off the bat, Kwame was a red flag. In his intro, he was basically saying how, like, you know, there's been times in the past where, you know, he hasn't been able to go to prom with his girlfriend because he was black. So for me, that kind of lets me know that he's kind of been the secret black boyfriend, or he's been putting up with racist people's family just because his preference is white women. So right off the bat, he's kind of letting us know his preference is white women. That's who he's going to be going for in the pods. And, you know, each to your own if that's what you want to do. But then the red flag just got deeper when he basically said that he was thinking about coming into the pods as Alec rather than Kwame, essentially saying he didn't want to come into the pods with his Bately African ass name because he thought it would ruin his chance with white women. So for me, it's definitely giving off self-hate vibe, and that's always going to be a red flag. But you know what? I would rather he would be honest about it, unlike somebody else from last season. You ended up wasting someone else's time. Then we have Paul. I thought off the bat he was charismatic, but he did kind of give off analytical vibes and that he can be an overthinker. Then we have Brett. He seems very serious about the whole experiment. You can tell that he's coming in very intentional. He's here to find a wife. Then we have Zach, and right off the bat he was coming off like he was a joker, the class clown. But for me, you could tell that he was putting on a front. And for me, that was a red flag. And then we have Marshall. We didn't really get introduced to him until kind of later on. But yeah, right off the bat, he seemed like a very sweet and soft man. And then there's Josh. And initially, I thought that he was a decent guy, would be a good option, you know. And then we move on to the in-pod situations / relationships that develop. So first up, we have Irena and Zach. And, you know, Zach immediately opens up to Irena and basically says that the jokes that he makes are a front, and opens up about his childhood where he struggled. One of the jokes that he would make is that he would, when people would ask him what he does for a living, he would say that he was a stripper. And it turns out that in his kind of struggle growing up in a single parent household, the mother made her income through stripping. And he also revealed that she ended up dying, which is of course very unfortunate. But I'm not gonna lie, guys, that whole revelation was like a big red flag to me. Alarm bells were ringing. So for me, that kind of insinuates that he didn't respect his mother being a stripper, or maybe he was embarrassed that his mother was a stripper. And that's why now he uses this joke when people ask him what he does for a living. He says stripper, people laugh, and it's all a big joke. Because let's be real, we know that people look down on sex workers, and sex workers generally are poor women. So now I'm thinking, okay, I get you're trying to be vulnerable here, but let's like link things together. Like, were you ashamed of your mother? Has this now manifested into trauma? Does this affect the way that you view women? He's literally a criminal defense lawyer, and the sex work industry is notoriously criminalized. How do you treat cases where you have to defend a sex worker? Do you really try and help them? Do you give them bad deals on purpose? Like, maybe I'm just over analyzing the situation, but for me, I'm thinking red flag. Like, if you just told me that with all the information that I know, like you were just joking about being a stripper and now you just told me this story, I would have had to say, it's been nice speaking to you, Zach. It's been real speaking to you, Zach. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys what you thought about that whole thing about Zach opening up about his mother being a stripper after joking about being a stripper. Is that a concern, or is it nice that he's being vulnerable? I gotta hear from you guys. But in that moment, Irina seems to eat it up. Another one of Zach's love interests in the pod was Bliss. They also get vulnerable with each other, but notably, it's not as trauma-filled. I feel like it's very interesting to see how people, you know, open up and be vulnerable to different people. Because I feel like, you know, there's some people where they would choose someone specifically to dump the most intense trauma on, but there's somebody else who they would, you know, think, no, I just want to keep it light with you. I always think that's quite interesting. Essentially, it ends up being a love triangle between Zach, Bliss, and Irina. And it becomes very clear that Irina and Bliss don't like each other. Obviously, they're fighting for the same man. And Zach is just basically telling them most of the time, oh, like, it could be either one of you. Like, I love both of you guys. So it ends up being his birthday on one of the pods. And Bliss, you know, goes out of her way to make these cupcakes for him. And Irina's woken up, she's completely forgot. So she's thinking, shit, look, Bliss is here, you know, making all these cupcakes. And she basically asks if she can borrow one of Bliss's candles. And she was basically like, fuck off, bitch. Like, what the fuck? Why would I give you my competition, my candles? And rightly so, yeah, why would I give you, why would I give you, why would I help you, bitch? If you're trying to steal my man, like, we both want the same man, like, why would I help you? And what ends up happening is they both end up bitching to Zach about it. And I was just kind of like, this is probably not what you should do. Like, I would never bitch to the person I was interested in about my competition. Quite frankly, I would hate to be in a situation in the pods where I had to fight with somebody else for a man. Like, I would want it to be, a situation where it's the other way around, where people are fighting for me. But if I found myself in that situation and I had to fight, honey, I don't think telling the person that you're interested in that the other person that they're interested in is a bad person. It just seems very petty and childish. So I would not advise doing it. I think Irina, she kept it light, but Bliss really went in and was really like, if you pick her, then it really does, tell me about your character. So obviously Zach is just kind of like, whoa, 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 whoa. And when he was like, whoa, 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 I was just kind of like, Bliss, I think you lost him, because he seemed to be, a lot more understanding with Irina. Like, he didn't even care that she forgot his birthday. Like, they had a conversation about it and she was like, yeah, sorry, I forgot. And he was just kind of like, oh yeah, don't worry about it. So from those interactions at this point, where now they're kind of like bitching about each other to Zach, at that point I kind of felt like Zach had more chemistry with Irina and he was probably going to pick Irina. The next day, I guess Bliss is kind of sitting on the situation, like, maybe I was just a bit too intense with the bitching. So she basically apologizes to Zach and was like, you know what, upon revision, like, it was some petty stuff. I've squashed it with Irina. And, I didn't mean to, like, insinuate that, you're not a good judge of character. And she read him this poem and I was just thinking, girl, you're doing way too much. Like, you're doing way too much. And I basically just put it in his hands. But after all of that, he essentially basically told her that he was going to be picking Irina. So I'm just thinking, bitch, you did all of that and you wrote this man a poem and all of that for him to reject you. Like, oh, I know she was thinking, like, I'm never doing this for any man again. Yeah, like, absolutely not. I couldn't be dealing with this. I'm not sure who I should pick. I'm just removing myself from the situation. We then have another kind of love entanglement, and there's like quite a few people in this love entanglement. So we've got Micah and Amber for Paul, and then Kwame and Paul for Micah, and Chelsea also wants Kwame. Micah and Paul, they seem to get on well. They seem like they have, seem to go well. They seem like they have chemistry. With Micah and Kwame, it feels very one-sided. Kwame is very much into Micah, and Micah, I feel like she just kind of appreciates the attention. I feel like she likes what Kwame offers in terms of, he's, got a good career, he can offer security, and obviously he's very much invested in her. But I feel like she, based off of her preconceived notions of him, she wasn't attracted to him. She says things like, maybe I should pick him because it's time that I pick the nice guy. Like, kind of instant desexualization. And for me, the reasoning isn't really adding up, because I feel like Paul also was a nice guy, but there's obviously two differences between Kwame and Paul. She knows Paul is white and she knows Kwame is black. That's the only difference I can see here. And that's why Kwame wanted to come in as Alex, because he knew stuff like this would happen. Kwame is also establishing a connection with Chelsea, but from the very beginning, it was very much giving second choice. If Micah doesn't pick him, he's gonna go with Chelsea. What I found quite interesting with his interactions with Chelsea is that he was being, quite sexual with Chelsea. Something that he refrained doing with Micah, which I thought was quite interesting. But from the very beginning, Kwame is very honest that, Micah is his first choice. and is his dream girl. The only reservation that he had, she isn't giving him as much reassurance and as much validation as Chelsea is, because Micah, she knows that she's a wanted woman, and she's very much, I'm going to play it cool, I'm going to play hard to get. So Kwame takes the initiative to kind of bring how he feels to Micah, and essentially says, I want to marry you, but the only thing that's kind of holding me back is that Chelsea is giving me more reassurance and validation than you are. So I kind of feel like you don't really want me, and I don't want to, propose to you if I feel like you don't really want me. Basically, essentially saying, give me more attention. Micah, it's very clear that she gets a lot of male attention, a lot of male validation. I feel like in her mind, she knows that she's Kwame's dream girl. And to be honest, she hasn't really been putting in that much effort to be the dream girl. So she's kind of thinking, I have options. I have other options that are not asking me to give them more attention. Why would I bother giving you reassurance? Why would I bother giving you attention? You kind of get what you're giving. And Micah essentially tells him, like, don't expect that from me, because I'm not going to do that. I'm not going to give you any more reassurance. I'm not going to go out of my way to make you feel wanted. I'm just not going to do that. I feel like she basically told him, like, who's the bad bitch here? Is it me or is it you? And then also basically said, she does have a connection with Paul, still wants to kind of explore that. So she's not really looking to pour in so much to somebody else when she's still exploring another option. Essentially telling him she's not interested in him at the same intensity that he is interested in her. And I feel like Kwame basically accepted that. Obviously, he was disappointed, but he doesn't really have a choice. But I think he was hoping she was going to go to Paul and see that, it's not the same, and she was going to come back and be like, okay, yeah, I want you, Kwame. I feel like that's what he was hoping for. Obviously, Micah is his dream girl. Which brings us to Paul. Obviously, Micah has a connection with him, but Paul also has a connection with Amber. And throughout all of their interactions, I didn't really see chemistry there. I didn't really see romance there. And a lot of their interactions were very awkward. There was no romance there. There was no chemistry. It was just kind of like, she's come on this show now. She's looking for her third husband, and Paul will do. That's what it was giving. They also had this awkward conversation where Paul asked, like, if she thinks she would ever cheat on her husband in the future. And she essentially says, yeah, like basically saying if things were going really bad in the relationship, then probably yeah. And obviously that is just the wrong answer. Why would you answer it that way, honey? Like, I was just like, why would you say that? And obviously Paul, right off the bat, is like, red flag. And I was kind of like, like, yeah, girl, why would you answer it that way? Like, even if you thought that, girl, just lie, honey. A lie. She backtracks and be like, oh no, I've never cheated before, blah blah blah. Oh, if it got really bad, I would leave before. Obviously, I would never cheat. And I was just thinking, Amber, we know you cheated. Like, bitch, coming into your third marriage now, girl. We know you've been cheating. And you're in your 30s, like, girl, we know you've been cheating. It's okay, girl. But Paul ends up reassuring her, I believe you, I trust you, and stuff like that. And I basically essentially tells her that he loves her. So obviously now Micah hears that Paul has told Amber that he loves her. And obviously Paul is her number one at the moment. So he's thinking, like, not my number one telling other girls that he loves them. Like, what the fuck is this? It's messing up her dream girl ego. So, she confronts him directly. He tries to skirt over it, but basically admits that he essentially did. But is basically telling her that, she's his number one. Micah's like, well, you're my number one. And then they decide to lock in, and they agree to kind of cut things off with their other connections. First up, Micah and Kwame. The pods, he takes it as well as he can. Obviously, it's a big hit to his ego. He's kind of, speaking really fast. He kind of wants to get out of there before he starts crying. You know that he's pressed. You know that he's hurt. And as soon as he gets out of the pods, he just breaks down. He is distraught. He is just miserable. He's just been rejected by his dream girl that has been barely paying him any attention. And I was just thinking, Chelsea, if you could see this right here, I'd be damned if the person that I was interested was distraught over some other girl rejecting him. So after that, I was thinking Kwame and Chelsea they're not gonna work out. Like, this is way too much investment. Like, he was in love with this girl, like, proper. So then Paul also breaks up with Amber. I'm not sure why it took so long. I feel like he was trying to find the words, and then Amber would be, telling him that, she loves him and she really cares about him, and then he'd feel really awkward to do it. So it took him a long time to actually break up with Amber. But, he did eventually do it. Amber doesn't take the breakup well. She's kind of crying in front of Paul. Obviously, she was here to find her third husband. That's now just been ruined. So I definitely feel for the girl. I guess, the third husband is just not in the pods. Back to the real world, unfortunately. And that action essentially locked in Kwame with his second option, Chelsea. Then we have Tiffany and Brett. They get along really well. It was very clear that they were going to get engaged to each other. But for me, in the pods, I didn't really see much chemistry. And I was unsure if they were really compatible. I feel like maybe they were the most compatible in this environment. But I did question a few times whether they were compatible. Brett is very much in tune with his feelings and getting deep and getting vulnerable. He shared his rags to riches story with Tiffany. He told her about his brother's untimely death. Tiffany was very much the listener. She never really contributed to stuff. And a lot of the time you could tell that she kind of just didn't know what to say. I feel like maybe she's somebody who either maybe hasn't been through much trauma, or maybe just doesn't really like talking about her trauma. I kind of got that sense from Tiffany. So the fact that Brett is kind of constantly deep, I feel like maybe he expects to get something out of Tiffany. So, as he was, sharing more and more in the pods and she wasn't, I was kind of thinking, like, is he going to get to the point where he just is like, well, I don't feel like I'm getting anything from you. Like, I've shared this much and you kind of haven't shared anything. But we didn't get to that point. I did see something that potentially could be a red flag with Brett, because when he revealed that his brother, died just before he was going to get married, I feel like he basically insinuated that he's sometimes scared to get into like relationships or to pursue things because he's scared that they're going to end or end badly. And I feel like sometimes traumas like these can be used in the future when it comes to things like commitment. I was a bit concerned when he said that, but I haven't seen anything to indicate that Brett would have commitment issues. But there was a part of me that thought, and kind of still thinks, that they just picked each other because they were the most compatible in the pods rather than them actually being compatible. Then we have a love triangle with Jackie, and in this love triangle it is her, Marshall, and Josh. We didn't really see much of Josh, but it seemed like they had banter, they got along well. And then we saw Marshall. He seems like a very soft and sensitive man. They open up with each other about their childhoods. Jacqueline, confides in him that she had a very strict childhood and she doesn't really, want to continue that with her future family. And Marshall kind of opened up about his family dynamic. And I think a key thing that he opened up with that a lot of people can relate to is, as a child, you may be struggling with a subject. His subject in question was maths. And I feel like for a lot of parents, especially in the Black community, there is this lack of patience. There is elements of abuse, like verbal abuse, sometimes physical abuse, if you struggle with learning. And how that can develop into anxiety when you're dealing with that subject, because you're constantly thinking, am I going to be punished? Am I going to get in trouble? I feel like a lot of people watching will be able to relate to that. As Marshall and Jackie continue to progress, Marshall does tell Jackie that he loves her. And notably, when he tells her, she doesn't really say anything. And then she starts spilling some tea, basically saying that the other guy that she was speaking to, Josh, basically told her she's the only girl for him, and if she doesn't pick him, he's going to pack his bags and leave. And she basically says that she felt pressured to basically be like, no, don't leave. Now she feels convicted. And Marshall is pissed, and he's been this kind of cute little soft man, but now we're kind of seeing the little firecracker come out of him. And he's basically like, why would he even try and put that pressure on you? Matter of fact, let me help this bitch pack. He's not here for the manipulation. And I guess maybe Josh hasn't been as transparent to Marshall as Marshall has been transparent to him. And I feel like he basically feels like he's gone behind his back. Like, he knows that he's winning, And now he's trying the guilt trip to steal his woman. So Marshall's basically like, don't worry about it, Jackie. Like, I'm going to go talk to this bitch. He's all hyped up, ready to confront Josh. But when he gets to the male living quarters, he doesn't really say anything. He just starts like kind of silently bitching to Brett. And then basically Josh pipes up and is like, are you talking about me? Like, basically, like, say it to my face, like, what's all this whispering shit? So they basically start going back and forth, and Josh is basically like, well, I feel like you're the one who's going to get your heart broken. And Marshall's like, well, I feel like you're the one that's going to pack your bags. And I was just like, it was so funny seeing the men fight. I do love a love triangle where it's two men fighting over the women. Like, yeah, let's see you compete for the woman's affection. Purr. And what also was quite funny to me is because they both kind of look like celebrities. Like, Josh kind of looks like Omar. I don't know what his last name is, but he played James St. Patrick in Power. And then Marshall kind of looks like Jesse Williams. So it was kind of like James St. Patrick and Jesse Williams having an argument. But yeah, I was here for it. I was here for, Marshall's passion. And I was rooting for him. Like, I can definitely understand Josh wanting to keep it to himself because, why would I give the competition a heads up? But at the same time, like, telling someone, if you don't pick me, I'm going to pack my bags up and leave. It is very manipulative. Like, there's one thing saying, you're the only person for me. I can't see myself with anybody else here. And then saying, if you don't pick me, I'm going to pack my bags up and leave. Because that's kind of creeping in like negative reinforcement. Like, if you don't pick me, something bad is going to happen. And that was definitely a red flag from Josh. Because really what he should have said is, you're the only one that I want. And I hope that you pick me. That's all you needed to say. You didn't need to do all of this manipulation, huh? Jackie, she was just being so dramatic about the situation. She was crying and all of the girls were like, why is this bitch crying? But after that whole situation, like, after thinking about it, she was like, yeah, the way that Josh tried to put that pressure on me, it was definitely like giving me the ick. So it was very clear that, it was going to be Marshall and Jackie. So then we have the proposals. First up, we have Brett and Tiffany. It's very obvious they were going to be our first engagement. Notably, this took 2 attempts. The first attempt, for some reason, Tiffany just fell asleep. Brett was speaking and she just conked out. And obviously he's thinking like, bitch, I'm trying to propose to you. Like, did you just walk out? Are you ignoring me? Like, what the hell? Like, so obviously he's coming out distraught and he's like, I'm done. Like, what the hell? But the next day, Tiffany, apologizes, explains the situation. He kind of forgives her and then he proposes. She says yes. There is a part of me that feels like that whole sleeping thing was fake though. But then again, people have different levels of sleep. We have Paul and Micah. We didn't see Amber's reaction, which I would have liked to see, but we did see Kwame's reaction. And he was definitely pressed. He was definitely hurt. He was hanging back. He didn't really want to congratulate Paul. And he walked away very quickly after he did. Then we have Jacqueline and Marshall. Their proposal was really cute. Then we have Kwame and Chelsea, our second choice love of the season. And then we have Zach and Irina. Then, of course, we have the proposal meets. First up, we have Tiffany and Brett. And I feel like they were definitely both physically attracted to each other. They kissed right away. And at this point, I was thinking, yes, the chemistry can definitely build. There's some potential here. Then we had Paul and Micah. I felt like it was okay, but it was kind of like, Paul was smiling, Micah was smiling, but what was going on in both of their heads was a completely different story. Paul did kiss Micah and it was a bit awkward. She was a bit shocked. I feel like she saw his face and she was trying to process it and then he kissed her and she was like, what? But she just kind of kept up the smile. It's definitely giving like, the first date smile when you've matched with someone because you just want to go out on a date but you're not really sure if you like them. But you just smile throughout the whole day. It was giving that smile. To me, it was very clear that Paul was physically attracted to Micah, but to me, it seemed like Micah wasn't physically attracted to Paul. Then we have Jackie and Marshall. And their meet is so cute. Marshall's weak in the knees. He's like, yeah, I found my dream woman. I found their first meet really cute. And again, I was rooting for them at this time. Then we have Kwame and Chelsea. And I feel like there was a lot of chemistry there. I feel like Chelsea is Kwame's physical type. Kwame is Chelsea's physical type. I personally think Chelsea is more attractive than Micah. So I kind of felt like surely once Kwame sees Chelsea, like he's going to be happy with his choice. Because I was thinking, once he sees Micah, he's going to be happy with Chelsea. That's what I was thinking. I was thinking after they looked at each other, they've got such good chemistry. Like, Micah wouldn't be, you know, at the forefront of his mind. So at this point, I was thinking, okay, they're probably going to be secure. I doubt he's now going to see Micah and be more physically attracted. That's what I was thinking at the time. And then we have Zach and Irina, and this was by far the most awkward first meet I have ever seen. The hug was really quick. They didn't kiss. They sat down immediately. Zach was just making things awkward. Like, he was interacting like a robot. He was staring really weird. He was barely blinking. Irina was really uncomfortable. She was trying to fill the awkwardness with, you know, giggles and talk, and he just was not helping to fill that. So immediately I was thinking, this is not going to work out at all. I don't think Irina was physically attracted to him either. And I really just couldn't get a read on Zach. He was just giving robot. Then we have the engagement moon, and in the beginning it seems like Micah and Paul are going well. We still got the smiles on both of their faces, but it all just feels very friendly. No sexual chemistry there yet. Then we have Kwame and Chelsea. They seem to be going well. I was still thinking at this point, this is very promising. They've been intimate. Chelsea is very satisfied with the pipe. I'm thinking this could be a strong relationship. With Marshall and Jacqueline on the engagement moon is when we start to see potential red flags, potential problems in their relationship, particularly on Jackie's side. Right off the bat, Jacqueline seems to be warning Marshall that she's a very turbulent person emotionally, and that her kind of family situation is a mess. From the information that I've gathered, it seems like her family dynamic is that her family rely on her to do everything. You know, she's probably financially supporting her family. It's kind of giving dysfunctional family. She's kind of off the bat warning him about it. I feel like she has anxiety about it as well. I'm pretty sure maybe she's had past relationships where, you know, she's got comfortable enough to open up about, you know, her family dynamic, and they were just like, here, now, like, this is a bit too much for me. But Marshall, you know, he does his best to, you know, reassure her. And in this episode, we do see that he does reassure her. There's parts in the episodes where she basically has a breakdown, and he comforts her a lot. And of course, there's a part of me that's thinking, you know, Marshall, he's such a good guy. He's taking care of her. You know, he's not judging her. But I kind of feel like relationship dynamics like this, where it's very turbulent, you know, I'm not sure if it will last long term. I feel like it's one thing if your family is dysfunctional. I feel like that's understandable. But if you are dysfunctional as well, I'll have to tend to your dysfunction as well as your family's dysfunction. I feel like the emotional and psychological labor will be too much for Marshall. And Marshall was definitely better than me, because as soon as I hear warnings, I'm on my way out. If things are going well for the most part, I feel like it's very clear that Jackie is Marshall's dream woman. But I don't think physically Marshall is Jackie's dream man. I feel like Jackie's usual type is like taller, darker, tattoos, like basketball players and stuff like that. And initially I was thinking like maybe, you know, she's in a space where, you know, she wants to date somebody who's husband material, so she's willing to kind of compromise on physical traits. But now thinking about how turbulent she is, maybe a certain lack of physical attraction could become a problem later down the line. Because this question of intimacy does come up between them, which I guess is going to follow through in the next episode, where Marshall basically asks if she wants to wait till marriage. And I feel like he asked that, but really he meant to say, I would like to wait till marriage. Jackie was basically like, no, like, you know, I want to try before I buy type of thing. But I think she took it as maybe he was trying to be respectful rather than he personally doesn't want to do it until marriage, which seems to be a problem in the next episode. So with Zach and Irina, the lack of chemistry persists. Every interaction that we see with them is just incredibly awkward. It's very clear that Irina has caught the ick, and it's very clear that Zach knows that Irina has caught the ick. In the trailer in the beginning, they did reveal that somebody would propose for the second time. And at first I was thinking maybe it was going to be Paul and Micah, because I felt like there wasn't really much chemistry there. But after seeing that first meet with Zach and Irina, it was very clear that it was going to be Zach. now going back to bliss and being like, I regret my decision. Tiffany and Brett continue to go well, but again, like in the pods, Brett is getting very deep and vulnerable. Tiffany isn't. There was one interaction where she was basically like, oh, you know, I didn't really know what to say. To me, insinuates that she is uncomfortable with these kind of deep conversations. There's one thing to be a listener, but there's one thing when you just don't know what to do, and that's what Tiffany is giving. So like I say, I'm not sure if the lack of compatibility on that part could be a factor in them potentially not working out. Then we have the couples meet, and I already knew there was going to be some drama with Kwame, and his looking ass was definitely going to be looking for Micah. I was thinking he was just going to be seeing her just to see what she looks like just out of curiosity. But like I said, at this point I was thinking he's going to see Micah and see Chelsea is more attractive and just be happy with his decision. But right off the bat, he's like trying to be coy about it. Basically tells Chelsea like, you know, I'm thinking about, you know, having a conversation with Micah. Are you okay with that? Chelsea says, yeah, sure, because what are you really meant to say in that situation? It kind of puts her in an awkward position. I'm pretty sure she did want to say no, because why would you want to talk to Micah if that situation is done and over with and you decided to marry me? It's one thing talking to her in a casual context because we're all in a group setting together, but pulling her aside to have a one-on-one conversation, that to me was a red flag. He's too invested in her. And literally when the couples all meet up, Kwame is literally talking about Micah the entire time. Every conversation that he has, he's just talking about Micah. Literally nothing about Chelsea, like barely anything about Chelsea. The only name that seems to be on Kwame's lips is Micah. He ends up having a conversation with Micah where they both basically imply that they still, you know, have feelings for each other and they're attracted to each other. Then there's a situation where Micah basically jokes about Kwame's failed proposal in the pods. His demeanor just instantly changed. He basically storms off and is upset. And they have a conversation about it, and he's just, you know, she apologizes, and he's just basically like, you know, why would you say that? You know, that hurts me, that really hurt me. And then he basically confesses that he still loves her. And poor Chelsea is just watching on in the distance as her fiance is telling another woman who he really did want to marry that he still loves her. And they were kind of flirting. There was this flirty energy. There was this one moment where Micah kind of touches his chin, and you know, they were looking at each other like they wanted to kiss each other. If Micah said right there and then, I'm not feeling it with Paul, let's get together, Kwame would take her up on that offer. Just another disrespectful situation. And I feel like this happens every season because of the whole time frame of the situation. In the grand scheme of things, they haven't known each other that long. So even though that they're engaged, it feels like maybe they're just boyfriend and girlfriend, or they're still in the dating stage. But even still, if you're in an exclusive relationship and you're entertaining, you know, past connections, that's still disrespectful. Obviously, poor Chelsea, she's looking on in the sidelines. The other girls are basically saying, like, personally, I wouldn't have that. Like, you should go over there and stop the situation. But she's basically like, no, I'm not going to go over there. Like, I'm just going to go home. Like, I'm not going to deal with this disrespect. I think after seeing this interaction, it would have been done for me, because even seeing from a distance, you can see he really does have feelings for this person. That girl is his dream girl, not me. Chelsea literally asked him for a drink. Did he get her a drink? No, he didn't. He was too busy having drinks with Micah, talking to Micah by the pool, telling Micah that he still loved her by the pool, while you were out here looking stupid. That would have been an automatic breakup for me, because I would rather us break up now than me find you cheating on me later. This same pool party that they're at, Irina confesses to Micah that she is not attracted to Zach. Like, it was very obvious. And Micah actually confesses that she's not really attracted to Paul. And when Irina hears that, she's thinking, that means like, you know, Paul is fair game. And then literally after that, she starts flirting with Paul. A funny moment at the pool is when people were coming in and meeting each other for the first time. Jackie was like, oh, Brett is so fine. And Marsha was like, what did you say? And then Jackie repeated it. I found that funny, but I also did think it was a red flag, because, girl, why would you say that in front of your man? Why would you say that? Not much of a shock, but it seems that all the girls seem to think that Zach is a weirdo. On the day of the first meet, they obviously have this pool party in the day, and then they all meet up in the evening, but noticeably Chelsea and Kwame are missing. Obviously, the whole disrespectful situation with Kwame and Micah. I'm assuming they stayed home at the hotel because they're fighting. So obviously Chelsea, she confronts Kwame and she checks him, and she pretty much, sets a boundary, like what the fuck was going on, like was so disrespectful. And Kwame is trying to justify that he basically needed closure. And, the conversation gave him, enough closure. So obviously Chelsea is like, what are you talking about? It didn't give you full closure, but it gave you enough. Like, do I look like a dickhead to you? Like, absolutely not. She basically just comes out right with it and is basically like, would you pick Micah over me if you had the chance? And Kwame lies through his teeth and says no. He kind of semi-apologizes. But on that night of the argument, he doesn't really take full accountability for the disrespect. And I just kind of got a feeling from Chelsea that she was trying to set boundaries, but, she didn't really step her foot down. She should have been like, bitch, get out of my hotel room. We are not sleeping in the same bed. So I feel like because she wants to, get married, she might be trying to make things work, which is unfortunate. But the next day, Kwame does come back and, does take accountability. He's not completely honest because he doesn't admit that he literally told Micah that he still loves her and he finds her incredibly attractive. I feel like that's a key piece of information that he left out for obvious reasons. But Chelsea seems to accept his apology. After the whole Micah and Kwame situation, there is a bit of tension between Chelsea and Micah decides to kind of squash the tension and have a talk with her. And Chelsea is more than happy to have this talk because she kind of wants to get the real tea about the conversation that she had with Kwame, because in the back of her head, she knows that he probably wasn't telling the whole truth, or he was telling, the nice version of the truth. So she was ready to get the tea, but then it started raining. So obviously I'm guessing filming packed up and they had to go. And she kind of took it as a sign as, maybe she just needs to let it go. Like that was a sign that, his apology was good enough. And I was thinking, no, bitch, that was a sign that your relationship is going to end in disaster. I do hope maybe Micah does spill the tea because I feel like if Chelsea heard that Kwame told Micah that he still loves her and that he is attracted to her, I feel like she would definitely feel differently about things. But who knows? I mean, last season we literally had the same situation and they managed to resolve it temporarily. But they didn't make it to the altar. So I guess we'll see. Obviously, Zach has peeped the bullshit. He's peeped that Irina has caught the ick. And he basically gives her an ultimatum and basically says, like, look, I feel like you caught the ick. Like, either we try and make this work or we just end it here. And they eventually agree that it's not working out and to end things. And Irina is even like, I feel like we should sit separately on the plane. Like, not let's sit separately on the plane, bitch. She is literally scared and disgusted. So essentially after that, it's very clear Zach is thinking about Bliss and regrets, not proposing to her first, which kind of segues us into him now meeting up with Bliss, which sets us up for the next batch of episodes. So yeah, I feel like there was a decent amount of mess. It's been quite light so far, but I'm pretty sure I thought that the last for the first batch of episodes last season, it was only like the mid batches when it started to get very intense. So I'd be interested to see if that intensity increases for this season as well. The trailer for the next set of episodes definitely looks very juicy, and it seems like there's drama in every single couple. I knew there was going to be drama with Chelsea, Kwame and Micah. There seems to be drama with Paul. Maybe him and Irina get together. What is Bliss gonna say? Because all of the girls are basically saying Zach is a weirdo, he's a red flag. Bliss said that she was in love with him. Is she gonna take the bait? Is she gonna be weirded out by him in real life? Because he's just very weird in real life. I'm not sure if she sees him in real life, she's gonna love him anymore. But who knows? Who knows? The situation with Jackie and Marshall just seems to be very wild in the trailer. Like, I was rooting for them, but it seems like obviously Jackie is dealing with a lot in her life. She's probably gone through a lot of trauma. It just seems like there's going to be a lot of trauma dumping. So it's just about seeing Marshall's tolerance level, I guess. We get a snippet of the wedding. It seems like there could be a problem with Brett and Tiffany's wedding. And like I've been saying, I do think that they're not compatible in some ways. Maybe that has come up. Who knows? Who will actually marry? Right now, the only couple that I can see marrying after seeing this trailer is Brett and Tiffany. I can't see anything else. I guess we'll have to see what Jackie and Marshall are saying the next episode. I can see Micah and Kwame getting together. I'm not gonna lie, I'm kind of here for that love triangle. And it'd be interesting. It's been quite interesting this season in terms of switcheroos. Like, people are not staying until the wedding anymore. People are like, you know, realizing very fast it's not going to work out, and are exploring other options, which I'm really here for. I feel like it's a lot more realistic. I'm interested to see how the rest of this season plays out. But I'd be interested to hear from you guys what you think of the season so far. Do you think that any of these couples are serious? Do you think that any of these couples have marriage potential? Do you think Bliss should accept Zach's wedding proposal? Let me know. And let me know what you think of the people as individuals. And as always, let me know what you thought about my commentary. I'll be back with the next batch of reviews next week. I also have my Get Out reaction coming out soon as well. And if you want to see me react or review to any similar shows, you can always send me a direct request on Patreon. Subscribe if you haven't yet, and if you have, don't forget to hit my notification bell on so you know my next video is dropping. I'm also trying to get to 4.6k subscribers. That's my next short-term goal, and I'd appreciate if you help me hit that. And thank you to everybody who has subscribed to my channel so far, and thank you to everybody who's taken the extra step to sign up to my Patreon. It really means a lot to me. Till next time, guys. Bye.